to your first page, the no calculator, we'll do that first. I stapled some of them out of order. But... Okay, so for the no calculator number 7, you have to solve this equation for y. Get y by itself by getting rid of ax on both sides. I will say the most common thing in all the classes, in this class, and whatever, you guys are not showing me all of your work. I'm not a mind reader. I don't assume anything. You need to show me every single step of every piece of work. Otherwise, you are missing work and you miss points. Divide everything by 2. You should also, especially for literal, be doing this to both sides. Properties of equality is of both sides, not just one. So the 2 points there were, did you solve it correctly? Did you get the correct answer? Questions on that? For 8, many of you did the one thing I told you would not get b by itself, which is multiply both sides by m. This would give you m squared over b, and would not get b by itself. So what you had to do instead was multiply both sides by b, and divide both sides by b. So that you got b by itself that way. Some of you tried to multiply by the reciprocal, which you could do, but then you'd also have to get rid of b and get rid of m. Yes. What is reciprocal? The flip version of it. Questions on that one? I will say some of you had the correct process, but then erased it because other people said change it. So I would say don't second guess yourself. That is a number one cause of getting wrong answers. 9 was infinitely many solutions. So a lot of you had the only solution is 3. That would be x equals 3, which is not what's given. Same thing for the others. If it has no solution, these would have to be 2 different numbers. So if it doesn't have variables and it equals to the same number on both sides, that's infinitely many, but different, no solutions. Questions there? Okay, and then for number 10, we have to distribute. We get 8x plus 4 minus 2x equals 8 plus 4x plus 20. Make sure you are double checking your math. I know this was a no calculator part, but still double check it correctly. Combine your like terms on the same side. So 6x plus 4 equals 28 plus 4x. What is 6? 8x minus 2x. At that step, you could do whatever you wanted, move whatever you wanted. So let's say we get rid of 4x, and at the same time get rid of 4. So we have 2x equals, that was the wrong thing, 24, and divide both sides by 2. So the points in that one were, did you distribute correctly? Did you combine your like terms correctly? Did you solve to get 2x correctly and 24, and then the final answer? Questions on that one? Okay. On to the calculator part. So for this one, you had the calculator. Double check your work, especially in the calculator. We should be distributing to get 1/2 x minus 7 equals 5 minus, this will be 15 over 6, or simplify to 5 over 2, x plus 6. Many of us got minus 6 here and it threw the rest of our work off. So make sure you're double checking your math. Combine 5 and 6. That's not you didn't need to do that first. You could have moved something first, but you did need to eventually do that. Yes. How is it 5 over 2? This would be 15 over 6. I could divide both pieces by 3, which would give us that. But you could do that math in your calculator also. Then let's say you move 5 halves. When you're moving variables, make sure you have x with it, otherwise they would not be able to combine. So this would give us 6 over 2, x equals 18, which was simplified to 3x equals 18, and you would divide both sides by 3. So the 4 points on that one, did you distribute correctly? Did you solve to get the 3x correct? Did you solve to get the 18 correct? And then the 6 as the final answer. Questions on that? Especially with the calculator, you have the ability to go back in and put this in for your x's and see, is this right or not? To make sure you are doing that. In number 2, we had to cross multiply this and this. Whether you jumped straight into distributing or rewrote it first was up to you. So if you started here, that was fine. If you jumped into the next step and wrote 7n plus 70 equals 8n plus 64, that was also fine. And then you could move whatever you wanted. The easiest would probably be 7n, subtracting it, and then subtracting 64. So the 3 points on that one, did you distribute correctly, solve correctly, and get the final answer correct? Questions on that one?
How do you know what to do that, like multiply it?
Cross multiply? Yeah. When they're both fractions, yes. When you have a fraction that equals another fraction. Now, this got messy. So the very first thing you all should have done was got rid of 7 by adding. Some of you started to multiply by 3, which you could have done if you multiplied this and this and this. But if you didn't do that, your entire answer was wrong. From here, you could multiply both sides by 3 or divide by 1/3. Remember that you should be multiplying by the reciprocal instead of dividing, but I didn't take off if you divided by the fraction. You should have absolute value bars up to this point. After that point, you can drop them and make your 2 equations. Make sure you have 2 equations, otherwise you've lost half of your answer. Solve both equations. Some of you, if you got this far, just change this to -23 and +31 without actually doing the work. So you need to still do that work. Or some of you left this like this, which would not be the correct answer because we got to get rid of the -1. Neither was your question.
So do we always get rid of like the number that's in place of 7 in every equation?
First, yes. For absolute value, yes. So your 2 answers should have been -23 and 31. Where your points were, did you isolate correctly up to this point? Did you set up your 2 equations? Did you solve this correctly? The work should be the same, so all of that's 1 point, and then get your final answer. Yes.
Wait, why are we subtracting 1?
Dividing by 1? By
-1?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Other questions? And then in number 4, many of us missed this. We got the first part, which was adding 16. That is what you were supposed to do. This needs to stay in absolute value for this to work. But at this point, this can no longer be solved. It's absolute value that equals a negative. This is no solution. If you kept solving, that was wrong. But you also had a calculator. You could have put that answer back into the original, and your calculator, if you put it in, you wouldn't have gotten the same thing on both sides. Or if you put the whole thing in, you would have got 0, and the calculator would have told you it's wrong.
Wait,
Questions?
stop?
For this one?
Yeah.
This is no solution. You have to know that.
Because it's a negative?
Because it equals a negative. Because it's an absolute value equation that equals a negative, yes. Other questions?
So if it was a positive, there wouldn't be no solution.
Correct. We could keep going.
Yes. And if it's 0 equals a number, then it's 0, so no solution, right?
Yes, but that's for regular equations, not absolute value equations. Yes.
Would absolute value can be equal infinitely?
No. So absolute value can only have 2 solutions, one solution which would be 0 or no solutions. Then our word problems. So in this, they rent it for $10 a day plus a $20 one-time fee. The total was 90. We have to write and solve an equation to find how many days. So the first thing, or after you set up your equation, you should have done this, was define your variable. What are you looking for? And many of us miss that part. And then afterwards, set up your equation. So we know this is $10 per day. There's a $20 fee. The total was 90. So most of us got the equation correct. And then to solve that, get rid of 20. And then get rid of 10 by dividing. The second thing that most of us miss is our labels. We have to put labels because this is talking about a specific word problem. So the 4 points were, did you define your variables? Did you set up your equation? Did you solve it? Did you get the correct answer? Questions on that one? In general, as you're solving equations, some of you are drawing the line, which is fine if you keep putting equals. You are solving equations. The only way we do that is if there are equal signs. So make sure you have that. Also, as you're solving, don't do minus 20, 70, 10, and none of this is seen. Don't move all of your stuff to one side because you are moving things to both sides. You are solving equations using your properties of equalities. Then the last one. So the first part, you should have had a L equation, 5 inches more than 4 times the width. So you got 1 point for that part. Then, in your perimeter equation, you should have replaced P with 90 and put this in for L. That was another point. After you get that, then solve. As we were solving this, some of us forgot the extra 2W there, which threw the rest of our answers off. So this would have been 90 equals 10 plus 8W plus 2W. Combine your like terms, so that's 10 plus 10W. 10 equals 10 plus W. Get rid of 10 by subtracting. And divide both sides by 10. So that W is 8 inches. Again, we need labels. Then you should have went back and found L. Some of us did not do that. So that this would be 5 plus 32, or L was 37 inches. So those points were, did you get your length equation, your perimeter equation with L and your perimeter? Did you solve it correctly and get both W and L? What questions do we have on that? Or in general? Before you guys take your test. Okay, so just like the quiz, it's going to be both non-calculator and calculator. You're going to do the non-calculator first. And unlike the quiz, this is not collaborative, so we should not be talking. So go ahead and clear off your desk and put your calculators behind your phone.